Elives.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I know it's a working day, but I think we've got a fantastic session set up. And if you are in marketing, product management, CX, any form of customer business, then this session is really going to be an interesting one. It gives me great pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mr. KV Devpu. I think he has phenomenal experience in the space of digital transformation, innovation. He's an industry leader in the CX space, currently the senior president and head of operations at uh, Bajaj Allianz, which is actually the world's eighth largest digital insurer. And what's really amazing is the fact that, and these are things that even I didn't know about, that they're actually the industry's first blockchain and IoT solutions implemented in Bajaj Allianz. And that's fantastic. Something that no other insurer across the world has done. Uh, uh, the other thing which I find phenomenal is the fact that despite the fact that he leads a team of about 1,600 people across 170 locations, he is still extremely passionate about sharing his knowledge, his learnings through his rich experience of over 20-25 years. And he's a speaker at multiple universities and forums across continents, from the US to Europe to Southeast Asia. And I'm sure that the next, 30-35 minutes hearing him speak is really going to be an eye-opener. Just to ensure housekeeping, if you have questions during the session, please just post them on the chat. All of you have access to the chat, and I'm going to then make sure that he is able to get each of those questions at the end of his 20-25 minutes of his presentation. And then we'll also open up for more questions. Deepu, over to you.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you for such a warm introduction. And good evening, everyone. It's good to catch up in the evening while it's a working day. But tomorrow is Friday and the weekend is not too far away. So I guess it's good to have some food for thought in the evening. And evenings are sometimes a good time to let you have your head down and then have a discussion like this over a cup of coffee or beer or whatever it is that you're having. So wish you all a very warm evening to start off with. And as per the debrief that Anand shared with me, what I basically understood is that there are a lot of you who are from marketing, product management, and customer service backgrounds. And since I'm a practitioner, I'm not an academic professor. What I wanted to do, and that's what even Anand and Zaid were excited about, is to actually take you through real use cases. We all have heard of AI, ML, blockchain, IoT, and we keep hearing about these latest buzzwords in town. But how have they got implemented? I think that's what I'd like to walk you through. And as Anand mentioned, I'll try and keep the presentation crisp. Maybe spend about 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes, and then would love to hear any question that you may have. Now, the topic that we have is, how is technology, revolutionizing CX? And this is, part of the expert dialogue series. Can we just go to the next slide? Yeah. What I have done is just kept 2 slides, okay? Not more than 2 slides in terms of theoretical underpinning, and then I'll go across, to the, use cases. Now, we all know, right, that the reasons for digitization are all too obvious. Today's customers are highly connected, right? Something happens and immediately you see people taking videos and posting them using WhatsApp and Twitter, right? So it's a very different world that we live in, right? It's not like yesteryears where if something happened, you have to wait for, next day's newspapers, right? Everybody, is a journalist and, everybody has access to knowledge. Second, of course, we all are very well informed, right? Same example, if you look at 20 years back, you went to a location, you wanted to go to a hotel, you had to call up someone. Today, you just go to a website, and you will have all the information before you land there, right? You're just thinking of the hotel maybe in a far off place, and then you will basically just get all the reviews, and then you get to know what's happening. Impatient, today we just can't wait, right? If the taxi is 1 minute late, or if the lift is a few seconds late, or if the website takes 1 extra second to come alive, right? We start getting impatient. So I think that's the nature of things today. And of course, we all are very demanding and seek personalization. That's how customers are. Now, coming to insurance, since that's the industry I represent, on that front, The first thing is, if you look at customers, 1 in 2 customers consider social media comments before they, decide to make a purchase. Now, why this is significant is because we all have heard, right, that start your entire journey with the customer. And where do you start? You start when the customer lands up at your doorstep. But what this tells you is that you need to go even beyond that. Because for every customer who lands up at your doorstep, there is one customer who does not land up. So which is why it's very important to, look at the big bad world and then see, what are people telling about you and what is influencing people to not land up at your doorstep. So you've lost nearly 50% of your footfall without even realizing who they are. The second is, when we all have entered this digital world of interacting and buying, it's very easy to switch, right? Imagine, the offline world, there is a big discount store, in the outskirts of the city. You take a taxi or you drive down there, you invested time and effort, and then you're confined to that place, right? Because you want to buy there, you think, traveled all the way, right? Who's going to go back all the way to the city and find one more store? So you end up buying it out of inertia and fatigue. But what happens when you surf on the net? It takes you just a microsecond to go across to one more site, so it just becomes that much easier, to switch. And therefore, 24/7 service is very important. You take us right now, we're all sitting here in the evening, having this conversation. In insurance, you take travel insurance, right? Maybe it's right now 7:30 p.m. here, right? But if let's say there is somebody who's taken our travel insurance policy and, let's say he's gone to, California, right? For him, it will be 7:30 in the morning, right? Or 7:45 in the morning, right? It's 12 hours behind. So, you just need to be, available, all the time. And we all know that, customers are digitally connected and they want to obtain personalized service. So what this means is, you just need to be digital and you need to be top notch. You can't be analog and you also can't be anything but the best. So that is the reason, why the world today is very demanding. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, so this is the second and the last slide on the, code within code Gyan part before I go into the, use cases. So this is important for us because, as I said, we all hear about AI, ML, IoT, blockchain, and there's a tendency to just latch on to the latest buzzword in town, and then say, we should be, seen as doing something in blockchain, right? Or something in this area. See, it doesn't work that way. What you need to do is solve for a customer's issue. You need to solve a customer's problem. So what we have done is, come out with this 5-step process. It's extremely simple. In fact, it's so simple that somebody who looks at it sometimes may think, that I know about it. But we have actually seen that many people don't even implement this, because sometimes the simplest things in life, are underestimated and, we don't quite give them the weightage that we need to. So the first step here, is to listen to customers. It's extremely important for us to, listen to our customers, and that can happen in 2 ways. One is, of course, reactive listening, which is when customers come to you and they share feedback. And the other is proactive, where you reach out to them. You conduct net promoter score surveys. You, basically, conduct customer satisfaction studies, and then you figure out, what customers want. The second step, I think, is what at least keeps us ahead. And I'll explain this, in the use cases, that while customers state their needs, and most firms understand the customer needs and try to meet them, you also need to read between the lines to figure out what are customers' unstated needs. What are the latent needs, which customers themselves don't articulate. And I think that's what separates, the winner from the rest. Third step is, then to review the current landscape of, systems and processes, right? You take your own example. Well, many firms will say, that we're all truly customer centric. Let's say you go to a large bank. If you need to go for a housing loan, you need to go to one department. You need to go for a car. You need to take a car loan. You need to go to another department. You want to basically, get some deposits going. You need to go to a third department. So most firms are, department driven. They may not necessarily be customer driven. Which is why the fourth step is then important, that you need to then re-engineer this landscape to try to see, how best, you can meet, customer needs. And then if you do that, once you do steps 1 to 4, only then do you go into step 5, which is to deploy the right digital solution. What happens is a lot of firms, miss steps 1 to 4. You come out of the solution, and that solution does not meet the customer need, and then you try your best to, try to make it work, but it does not, right? If I'm not hungry, right, what is the point in giving me, the best food that you have? If I am not, if I don't have stomachache, right, there's no point in giving me, a pill, which can cure it immediately. So it's important, to go through these 4 steps, which is very important, and only then deploy the right digital solution. And again, when it comes to deploying solutions, it's not always about blockchain or state-of-the-art technology. It's about sometimes a very simple solution, and of course, sometimes, the most complex solution, which is available. So that's what underlies, all our, deployments. Yeah. Can we go to the next slide, Arshil? Yeah. As I said, just 2 slides on the theoretical context. And now I'm going to, jump into these real life examples. These are all tried and tested, successful employee deployments, at scale. And I'll walk you through, all of these. Next slide, please. Let's first start with our AI-driven chatbot. Now, a chatbot is passé, right? Who has not experienced a chatbot, right? You go to any website, a bot will pop up and say, hello, how can I help you? But I just want to highlight, how we, did things differently. As I say, winners may not necessarily do different things, but they do things differently. I think the first thing is we did not just pick up niche use cases. What we did was, we took the bull by the horns. We actually figured out what are the key drivers of traffic into our contact center. And we picked the top 23 services, and then we built seamless, frictionless journeys on our chatbot. And this really came to the fore when COVID-19 happened. Because as you all know, the lockdown was imposed virtually overnight and contact centers were shut down. A lot of people struggled, but we, were able to, gravitate all our customers overnight from contact centers to our chatbot because it catered to the top 23 services. The other aspect, when we talk about digitization, typically the language of choice tends to be English. It's very important in the Indian context to amplify our reach. So our chatbot, for example, is also available, in Indian languages, and that's how customers felt much more comfortable. The third thing, and I think that is where we need to understand that the switch from manual to digital, cannot just be a simple flip of the switch. What you also need to do is have a handshake. You need to have something known as assisted digital. So what happens in case the bot cannot understand what the customer is saying, because the bot is trained on your previous experiences. What if there is a completely new request? So what happens with our bot? The bot does not tell the customer that I cannot understand what you say, and therefore the customer is asked to terminate the chat, and then go to a call center or go to the website. The bot actually transfers the interaction to a human being. The human being takes over and takes it through to completion. So for the customer, it's a one-stop shop because he just gets his resolution. And what we do at the back end, we maintain an inventory of all such queries which the bot could not answer. And then using AI and NLP, natural language processing, we keep teaching the bot. So the bot's own percentage of first-time query resolution is always increasing. So that way we teach the bot as well as resolve it on the spot, and that's really worked wonders for us. And studies show that if you're able to resolve a customer's query in one stroke, your NPS can be, as a net promoter score, can be as high as 95. Just break it into 2 steps, and it can fall to as low as 65. And the last one is, we were pioneers in terms of integrating our chatbot with Alexa and Google Assistant when they were launched in India. So if you have an Alexa at home, and what would you ask Alexa for? You'd ask it to play some music or check on the weather. Let's say you wanted a copy of your insurance policy. You could say, hey, Alexa, can I get a copy of my insurance policy? Alexa would speak to our bot, and the bot would then send the registered, the insurance policy copy to your registered email ID. So I think this is how we were different. We picked the most complex use cases as in reasons why customers call us, made it multilingual. We had a seamless combination of man and machine where the bot would not be in a position to understand customer queries, and we also integrated this with voice. So I think that's how we were able to really ramp up our WhatsApp. We did not struggle with it. It was not an asset where we said that we need to get a lot of things right for the bot to understand, and customers were struggling. Customers loved our bot. In fact, they would give it a 5 on 5 rating at the peak of servicing during the pandemic. Next slide, please. This is again, a very interesting use case, very specific to health insurance. Now, as you can understand, there are perishable items and there are non-perishable items. Take the pandemic. Let's say you crash your car. We can always tell you, please wait for a week. Maybe, you're not going out of the house. But if you're unwell, we can't ask you to wait. You have to get treated immediately, whether there is a pandemic or whether there is no pandemic. And also when there was a spike in demand for health insurance, in case you needed to buy, health insurance. So how do we do that? Everybody is working at home. There is a lockdown. You can't exchange paper. So here comes AI, IoT, ML, and the entire suite of technologies, that you hear about. So what happens, in case you want to, let's say, submit your claims. You submit your claims in a paperless manner. Use the mobile app and submit your claims digitally, and then we transfer the money to you. Digital submission, digital payment. So our claim servicing continued unhindered. When it comes to buying an insurance policy, you would basically submit your information electronically. What we would do is then send this information electronically to the diagnostic center, and then how do they do a medical checkup? And that's where telemedicine comes in. So electronically, the doctor through a video chat, he would, examine you and diagnose you. And then he would submit the electronic, the medical report was electronically. And then, we would, issue the policy to you. So it just worked like magic, it just happened in an absolutely seamless manner. And even if you had a test at home, let's say there is somebody who's on a beat plan, earlier what he would do is, let's say his beat plan is from, let's say 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. He would go to all the houses and at the end of the day, submit all the medical reports and then, the process would kick in. Here we gave an IoT device. So as he left each home using the IoT device, he could transfer the, the diagnosis from the house, to the medical center. So he moved from batch processing to real-time processing. And it worked so beautifully for us, that this was a unanimous choice for the global, Celent Model Insurer Award in 2020. That's a prestigious award. It's a global award. And we won this in the face of stiff competition, more than 100 nominations from 70 countries. So absolutely, smooth processing on health insurance. Next slide, please. This is again a very interesting use case in the area of motor insurance. Now, imagine you crash your car. What do? You would basically call up the insurance company and they would say, okay, fine. Can you please wait? I'll find the surveyor nearest to your site of crash. They'd locate him. We don't know how near he can be, maybe 10 kilometers, maybe 50 kilometers. And then, he needs to get ready, come to the site. You're waiting there. He will assess the extent of damage, submit his report, and the whole process would kick in. We said, how do we revolutionize this? So what we did, we came out with a two-step process. No more surveyors, no more waiting. All you need to do is to take photographs of your car in case you crash it and just upload them using the mobile app. What happens at the back end? We have an AI engine. That AI engine has been taught using years of expertise. It will analyze the images that you have uploaded and it can get very, very granular. It can say, how deep is the dent? Is it a 40% dent? Is it a 60% dent? It can even check, does this part need to be replaced or does this part need to be repaired? In a matter of minutes, 20 minutes, in fact, up to certain amounts, it would quickly assess the damage and then, it is notified to you. You say, fine, I'm fine with the amount and the amount is transferred to you. So what used to take days, now takes 20 minutes up to certain amounts. So AI, is the AI engine, and photogrammetry is the tool that we use, whereby we analyze the images and then, convey the claim amount to you. Next slide, please. Yeah, I spoke to you about, stated needs and unstated needs. What's our core offering? We're an insurance company. What happens when customers call us? When customers call you, right, we all are human beings, right? We speak in languages, right? We don't speak in mathematics, right? We just don't call up and say, I this need. We'll call up and say, how are you? What is happening? And customers start to share a lot of information. If you listen carefully, you pick up a lot of information. So at that time, when we heard our customers, while they would call us for, let's say insurance, they would say, but it's so tough nowadays. I'm sitting at home. I have a mild ailment, but I'm not able to go to the hospital because there is a lockdown, or hospitals are, because of pressure prioritizing COVID-19. And to the same point, that somebody is unwell, you can't ask him to wait. So we said, how do we help our customers? Because if you notice our logo, it says caring be yours. So what we did, we said, okay, we're an insurance company and we have an empaneled set of doctors. So we told our customers that, going beyond insurance, if you have a basic need for which you're not able to step out of your house, why don't you log into the mobile app and you have a chat with our doctors? You can do a video chat, you can do an audio chat, you can do a text chat. The doctor would then diagnose him and then tell him what to buy. And all he needed to do was go to a medical shop. And medical shops are always exempt from any sort of lockdown. So customers just loved it because they said, you're an insurance company, but for a minor ailment, which has nothing to do with insurance, right? I can just have a doctor on chat option or a doctor on call option and go and buy medicines. And it was an unstated need. Customers did not call us up and tell us that they wanted this. We understood the latent need and we came out of this. And that's how we were able to really raise the bar in terms of customer experience. Next slide, please. We all spoke about IoT. So this is a classic case of how we've leveraged IoT to make a difference. As you all know, IoT is Internet of Things. So what happens in a lot of countries is a lot of insurers have given this product by which they tell customers that I'll place this IoT device in your car. What happens when you place the IoT device in your car? You start to get feed, right? You can then get to know a lot about the way you drive, and you get a lot of diagnostics on the vehicle. And this information can help you manage your driving behavior better, and it can become a good input for an informed conversation between the customer and the insurance company when they renew the policy 1 year later. So we said, okay, this is a good tool, but we also understood our context, the Indian context. What happens in the Indian context? Many people have drivers. Now you are not driving, right? So this may help you if you're driving, but what when it comes to your driver? So we said, how do we launch IoT, but how do we make a difference to our customers? So the last line that you see here, we launched a feature called geofencing. Now, what is geofencing? Imagine a situation, where you have a working couple. So the driver in the morning drops the husband and the wife to work, possibly different places, and then maybe even drops the kids to school. And in the afternoon, he picks the kids up. And depending on the situation, if there is maybe a daycare, he takes them to a daycare, or maybe there's a maid at home, he brings them back home. And the husband and wife are in the office. And we all know, right? We keep reading the media about all kinds of things happening with children, and people are worried. Now, what geofencing does is, when the driver is picking up the kids, you can mark your traditional routes in the car, saying that from the school to the daycare or to my home, these are the 1 or 2 or 3 routes that you can take. If the driver takes a road, takes a completely different route, immediately you get an alert. So digitally, you mark the fence. That's called geofencing. Now, this is not possible without the use of IoT. So while globally a lot of players use it only for telematics, as in giving diagnostic behavior to drivers, we use this for geofencing, and that's how we were able to differentiate ourselves. Next slide, please. This is again a use case of IoT, but in the classic sense. The classic situation where how most of us have gone to school. You get picked up from your neighborhood bus stop by the school bus, and then you go to school, spend time there, and then come back. And again, parents are worried, right? They're worried about the whereabouts of their children, once they go to school. So here, what we do is we give a personal accident cover, and along with that, we give an IoT device, and we're obviously, privacy conscious. So this IoT device is a choice, right? You can buy the product with the IoT device, you can buy the product without the IoT device, and this is embedded in the ID card of the child. And from a privacy point of view, we ensure it does not beep, so there is no sound that it makes. It does not flash, so therefore optically it's not visible, and the feed only goes to the parent. So they can say, okay, now that I've dropped my child, okay, I can see the child is in the bus. The child has now reached the school. The child has been in the school for the last 4 or 5 hours. Now the child is, sitting in the bus, and is back at home. So for parents, it becomes a huge source of comfort. So that's the whole idea of how you give insurance plus comfort, by using technology. Without IoT, this was not possible. Next slide, please. I think Anand spoke about the fact that even he didn't know that we were pioneers in terms of blockchain. So let me just take you through this use case. This we launched nearly 5 years ago. When people were talking about blockchain, we walk the talk. So let's let me illustrate this with an example. Let's assume you're taking a flight from, let's say, Mumbai to New York, right? Long distance flight, and for some reason the flight gets delayed, and then it creates a lot of hassles in your mind. The first thing on your mind is, how can I catch the next available flight? Maybe it's available 24 hours later. And then you start to think about all the procedures that you need to redo at the destination. Maybe the cab you booked, needs to be rebooked. Maybe you need to cancel the first night's hotel night because you're landing 24 hours later. Extend your trip, right? Plan for, one hotel night at the end of your trip. Maybe cancel some meetings, refix meetings. You're going through a lot of hassles in your mind. So at that time, if someone were to tell you, by the way, do you know that you're eligible for a claim payout because your flight is delayed? That would be the last thing on your mind. And even if you were to focus on it, and if you call up an insurance company, they'll say, okay, is that so? Can we get some proof from the airline? Can you ask them for an email or a letter that the flight is delayed? Give us some documents, passport copy, boarding pass copy. And then you say, I'm in the airport. I need to figure out my next flight. I need to plan my bookings. This is not my area of concern right now. So we said, why don't we minimize customer effort? So what we did, we took the onus of proving the delay on ourselves. By deploying a blockchain-based solution, we put ourselves in a position where we get immutable proof that this flight is delayed. And in a fundamental change, to the whole value chain of insurance, the customer doesn't need to intimate us that the flight is delayed. We reach out to him. It's a complete reversal. We tell the customer, we understand your flight is delayed, and the only thing which we need to know is that he's on that flight. And then we just transfer money to him. So for the customer, it became a huge delight, right? So that's how, travel easy, really literally travel easy. And by, using this blockchain-based solution, right, we just fundamentally re-engineered the value chain. Of course, it's a different matter that after that COVID-19 came in and in the last 2 years, nobody has traveled. That's a different, situation altogether. But at least, when we launched it, we were pioneers. Next slide, please. This again, is a very interesting example. If you notice, I spoke about travel insurance, I spoke about health insurance, I spoke about motor insurance, and I spoke about how, we've introduced technology, in various aspects. Now, this is, a case of crop insurance where farmers avail of it from us. And we call it Farm Mitra, friend of farmers. Now, we all know farmers live in rural parts of India. English is not their first language. And we also know that there are no organized marketplaces of information when it comes to rural India. So we said, why don't we help our farmers? So what we did, we came out of the industry's first mobile app for crop insurance and exclusively in Indian languages. This is not available in English. So, and it's available in multiple Indian languages. So for starters, they can use this app to interact with us. They want to file a claim, they want to ask for a refund, they want to know the status of the insurance policy, so on and so forth. And then we all know that, farmers also interact a lot with the government, right? But Pradhan Mantri Bima Fasal Yojana scheme, so on and so forth. So we give them access to the government's portal through this app. So it became a one-stop shop in their language. And then when COVID happened and, they were sitting in their home, this became a lifeline because we started to send them a lot of information via app notifications, information on the weather, because weather and soil play a significant role in agriculture. We gave them, information on pricing. There was huge fluctuation depending on lockdown on or off. We gave them crop diagnostics. We gave them crop advisories, and they just loved it. It became a boon, and a lifeline for them. So much so that through sheer word of mouth, downloads went up. At one point in time, we had a score in excess of 4.5 on the Google Play Store. And this was a unanimous choice for the Global EFMA Accenture Innovation and Insurance Awards 2020. So that's how, we were able to take this without using English, to the hinterland of India. Next slide, please. Yeah. One thing which we have seen, during COVID-19, right? We all practiced, social distancing, and we were all, trying to interact in a contactless manner. That's where, we leveraged this entire touchless paradigm, and to come out with touchless UI as in user interfaces. And I'll just explain this to you, by using two examples which lie at opposite end of the spectrum. One I already spoke about, right, in terms of the integration of our chatbot with Alexa and Google Assistant. It's touchless, right? You have Alexa at home, you just voice your command. Hey, Alexa, can I get a copy of my insurance policy? Alexa speaks to our chatbot and the policy is emailed to your registered email ID. Hey, Alexa, can I know which is the nearest branch? Alexa will interact with the chatbot and tell you which is the nearest branch. Hey, Alexa, which is the nearest hospital? Again, it can tell you which is the nearest workshop. So completely contactless, and voice-based, right? So that's where, touchless UI, UX really helped, when we were as a global team across all countries, right, practicing this. At the other end, simple solution, we still had customers walking into branches. Now, how do you interact with them when they are in branches? At that time, I'm not talking about now, I'm talking about, the peak of COVID-19. People wearing masks, you need to use sanitizers, you need to maintain social distancing, you can't exchange paper, you can't shake hands. So we told our customers, don't worry, in case you walk in, there's a QR code. Just scan the QR code, it opens up, and then you can carry out whatever process you want, whether it's filing a claim or asking for a refund. And then we also educate our customers that if you're walking into the branch and using a QR code, why do you need to walk in the next time around? Do this in the comfort of your home. So not only were we fulfilling customers' needs in a touchless manner, but we were also educating them. So I think that's how, we were able to thrive through the entire crisis. We did not just survive, we actually thrived through it. You may be pleasantly surprised to know that during the pandemic, when a lot of our competitors were struggling, our customer grievance ratio fell, not by 5 or 10%, but by 90%. Next slide, please. Just a quick case study, very quickly I'll run through. I'll not take more than a minute because I'm conscious of time. Just next slide, please. Yeah. So this was a problem statement for us. Lockdown announced overnight, call centers and offices shut. How do we reach out to a massive family? We have hundreds of millions of customers, a lot of employees, partners, hospitals, garages, and how do we serve customers, right, without inbound contact centers? Next slide, please. So what the solution, right? As we all know, that going gets tough, the tough gets going, right? I mean, the tough get going. This applies to all of us, right? So as I said, we had not predicted COVID-19, but because we had embarked on a digital transformation journey much in advance by having our assets available, we were able to get customers to move overnight. So we only had to focus on communication. We went on a massive blitzkrieg, and then, we educated our customers and they were able to, gravitate overnight, virtually overnight. And I think more importantly, we not only met stated needs, but even unstated needs. At that time, even before Arogya Setu came in, we came out with the contact tracing feature on our app. We call it social trackback, appropriately called. So in case, you wanted to know whether you had met someone, you just have to go back and check your log. So that's how, we were able to meet, a lot of, unstated needs at that point in time. Next slide, please. Yeah. So as I said, that our, grievances came down by nearly 90%. We continue to be leaders on Net Promoter Score, and this is done by an independent market research agency. And we were able to gravitate, customers to our huge customer base, to nearly 80%, at the peak of the pandemic, virtually overnight, right? Overnight, customers were able to gravitate to WhatsApp, Alexa, our, chatbot, customer portal, mobile app, and all the digital assets that we had. Next slide, please. Just some, humor. Sometimes, we discuss, a lot of tech, right? So I think it's also important to have, a sense of perspective, because we just can't get so engrossed in tech, that we forget, the human angle. So sometimes, we just bring in one of these, humorous slides, just to keep the human element alive, right? Next slide, please. Yeah, that's broadly, what we had. And, happy to take any questions, that you may have.
No, brilliant. Yeah, awesome. Firstly,
Thank
you, Deepu. I think that seriously eye-opening stuff. I mean, a lot of the tech you're talking about, like blockchain, IoT, etc., one only hears from a purely theoretical perspective, but to see it in action and thriving is fantastic. It's little wonder that Bajaj Allianz market share and their market capitalization has grown the way it is. Because I think many companies talk about customer centricity, but I think this is a fantastic example of how at different points of time you've always continuously focused on the customer. We have questions. So Rahul had a question, and again, Rahul, you can actually unmute and ask, or I can ask it for you. So Rahul asks basically, how much time did it take to go live with the chatbot? So it took right from planning to actually go live, or was it done like in a phased manner? Because given the fact that it is not easy to get things done in languages, even Google struggles with Indian languages.
No, it's a very good question, and it was definitely done in a phased manner. What we did was, we took initially we took the top 7 key reasons why customers called us, and then we flowed it back into the chatbot, and then we built those digital journeys. Then after that, we added the next 16 categories. That's when we moved from 7 to 23.
Wow.
And initially it was available in English. We started with English, and then after that we added Indian languages. But fortunately for us, when we added these 20, by the time we were ready with these 23 services, and we had it in multiple languages, because scaling up before COVID was obviously a challenge, right? But we were ready. So when COVID happened, it was just there, so customers could just immediately move to it. They found a seamless experience. They realized that they were getting as good an experience as they were when they were getting as they were getting the call center. So during the pandemic, 1 out of every 3 customers came to us using the chatbot.
Oh, that's fantastic. Probably one of the most used chatbots in the industry, I would assume.
Absolutely, and I think that's
out.
brilliant. And I think you were just absolutely ready for the pandemic before knowing that the pandemic is about to hit, right? So the other way of looking at it. No, and I think the phased approach was, we've already done so much, while of course Anand mentioned the languages part of it. I think the Alexa and Google integration is also not easy. While Google is struggling, we also have your chatbot and also the WhatsApp integration, which is now a public API, but earlier it had to go through, or still now has to go through Facebook and stuff. So much of work must have gone in the back end of it, and I think it's really commendable.
Thank you, Rahul. Yeah, I think that's what always happens. Initially, you put in you put in all the hard work, right? And then you are ready, and then maybe something like COVID happens, and then it just scales up dramatically.
Awesome. Guys, any more questions? Put it in the chat. Meanwhile, I had a question, Deepu. I mean,
sure.
Looking at across. Sorry, Asim, you had a question. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, guys. It's been an explicit way.
Asim, not very clear.
You're losing your voice, I think. Sorry. Asim, I think we're losing your voice. Let me just put it.
Yeah, I'm not able to hear.
Second, let me just put it. I'll just write.
Sure.
1 minute.
Yeah, so I'm actually in the middle of traffic. I'm driving, just reconnect.
Oh God, okay.
Now.
Okay.
Is it audible now?
Yeah, now it's audible.
Hello.
Yeah, audible.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
Yeah.
better.
It's audible.
Go ahead.
Right.
Yes.
What? I'm so.
Go ahead.
I think he just muted himself, right?
I think his audio is giving a problem. But anyway, I think he'll try and reconnect and come back.
Yeah.
Let Asim is there. Asim, if you can hear us, I don't think we can hear him, but let him come back.
Sure.
Otherwise, you can put your question in the chat. My question was that. Yeah, go ahead.
You can hear me now.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. Loud and clear.
Thanks for this time. You're right. So as the digital transformation is happening across globe, and but customers are looking for their business growth as well as the companies are, simultaneously growing. And, considering from an customer experience point of view, so I believe the next evolution which is going to happen is about customer intelligence, as I believe Amazon is working around. So if you could put some of the insights that how your product is going to work in those kinds of parameters in terms of customer intelligence behavior.
Yeah, sure, Asim. And I think, it's a good question, because if you look at firms today, right, you spoke about, one firm looking at customer intelligence. I think everybody is focused on, raising the bar, right? Nobody, stays, where they are. Like, it's like a treadmill, right? You run, even if you're in the same place, you try to run very hard. Now, when it comes to customer intelligence, it's, you can basically, look at it, from, multiple points of view. One is, one angle, and this is something which, we have actually discussed with, some customers, is they expect you to be proactive. I'll give an example. There is a customer, who, and this is a live example. He was, typing on his bank's website, and the system could immediately, from the way he was typing, say, have you forgotten your password? So he was very happy. He said, yeah, you read my mind. That is exactly, what I was going to ask you for. So that now that is one level of customer intelligence, where you are, understanding his need, right? And then trying to fulfill it, before he even articulates that. So that's one level of intelligence. The other, Asim, is, the classic paradigm, that you keep hearing all the time. And you keep hearing it all the time because it's not been implemented, in full spirit, all across, which is that you actually have, a 360-degree view of customers, right? So I'll tell you what help does. And that's what, for us was customer intelligence, which really, took it up, from the perspective of instant servicing, and also in terms of, cross-sell and upsell, which is, our cloud journey. Because earlier we used to have, data residing, in multiple data marts, and they were all in silos. When we moved to the cloud, we were able to create, a single data lake, and, that helped us, in terms of, giving 360-degree servicing. And I'll give you one example of that, where we were pioneers, right? Because some of you spoke about, Google. So I'll give you one example. Again, customer intelligence. Let's say a customer wants to locate a branch, right? And I told you, you can ask Alexa. But let's say he also goes to Google Maps and locates a branch. What is the standard, response you would get? That this is the nearest branch, right? And then you get various ways of reaching there, right? Multiple modes and the shortest distance. Now, what happens in our case, and we actually won an award for this, in Google. We have a bot which pops up, and it basically says, I understand that, you're looking for this branch. So is there a way, I can service you, and can I service you digitally? Sometimes the customer says, yeah, I was looking to go to the branch, to maybe, file a refund. The bot says, you don't need to do that, I can help you fulfill it. And in some cases, it has actually taken away, the need for the customer to go to the branch. And customers have been like, wow, I just clicked on the map, the bot came in, and then did that. So if you look at customer intelligence, one is knowing the customer fully, that classic 360-degree view. And then like how, you read him, read his mind, right? Proactively saying that, based on patterns, that is he looking for his password, or this bot popping up and saying that, can I help you? So when you do that, you just take customer, experience to a completely new level.
Right. Yeah, that actually makes sense. And I'll connect on this subject offline as well with your team.
Sure.
Right. Sounds good to me. And thank you for giving me all those insights. Thank you.
Welcome. More than welcome.
Question I wanted to ask was actually, Deepu, obviously, as Bajaj Allianz with a company with a lot of resources and obviously a lot of foresight, one has to give you that credit. The question is, for smaller companies, let's say, because customer experience and customer success is critical for every organization today, right? Irrespective of size. You can't say, okay, let me become bigger, then I'll start thinking about the customer. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
So how does a smaller organization, let's say organizations in the digital first companies, where should they start? Do you have like a framework of thinking of, where should you at least start to get your basics in place before you try to evolve to what you all have done at Bajaj Allianz?
Yeah. Ajay, that's a good question, Anand. And in fact, if I actually, flip it on its head, if you look at, conversations, let's say, with traditional established, behemoths, they'd actually, say the other way around that, maybe it's actually easier for digital first companies for two reasons. One is when you're a smaller company, you have a smaller set of customers to handle. And the other is you don't have to go through this unlearning phase, right? Because you can be born digital, from day one, right? So I think that way, they have these two advantages. But of course, your point in terms of they're not having scale and expertise and, experience, of course, is a disadvantage, but these are advantages, that they have. Now, coming to the second part of your question, in terms of, what do they need to do? What is the playbook, in terms of how do they go about it? See, Anand, I'll go back to the 5-step process. I think the first thing, clearly, is to focus on the customer. While it looks cliched, while it looks commonsensical, but somehow, we find that, missing, in a lot of, conversations. Sometimes it's about people, just getting inspired by the latest buzzword in town. You just want to be associated. Somehow there's a halo with, associated with blockchain. So you just want to do something around blockchain. It doesn't work that way, right? I mean, you need to ensure that, you meet the customer's need first, so that's, point number one. Point number two is, I gave you that example of, motor claims, right? Where you don't have to go through a surveyor and, you can basically, do that. Sometimes from day one, you launch that solution, right? You come in and basically say that, from day one, I'm going to do it this way. And I'll give you one example. You take maybe an Uber or a Facebook, right? Because these are digital first companies. From day one, Facebook never had a call center, right? I mean, you wouldn't have a number to call, right? And I'm saying today, Facebook is big. It's even got a different name now. But whenever it started, right, 2007, 8, whenever it started, even at that time, there was no call center. That did not hamper the growth of Facebook. And Facebook could have had you could have had customers calling for multiple reasons, right? Because you're using it for various reasons, from posting your social events to, everything, right? So sometimes you can define the path from day one, right? And even Uber did the same thing. So I think keeping the customer in mind and then, being clear about your path, and defining it from day one helps. Now, the one disadvantage that they have, like again, that motor example that I gave you, sometimes a digital first company may come out of the solution. Maybe they have the tool, they have AI and they have photogrammetry, but they don't have expertise. And that is where what they need to do is get expertise. Because sometimes if you don't get expertise on the solution, but you don't know how to assess the claim. I have the solution, but I just don't know what to do with the images. So start with the customer, define the path from day one, and then get expertise. Either you buy it or, you figure out a way to get it. I think if you can do these three things, I think you can be successful.
And just as a continuation of that conversation, looking at what you all have done as an organization and expertise, coming to expertise. So let's say today's CX professional or today's product managers, right, who are building products for the future. I mean, it almost seems that they have to be superhuman because they have to know a lot of different things to really be successful in today's day and age. And how does that happen? Because sometimes when you look at, the kind of skill sets that JDs ask for, right? The expectation is that you're looking for a superhuman, which is not real. So how do you all look for talent? I mean, how do you all then find the right people to work in this ecosystem?
Again, a very good question, Anand, and I think it comes back to, what is an obvious underlying theme in all of these, that the focus is never on me, but we, it's always about a team, because you need to have disparate, elements, coming together, for a solution to be successful. So let's say if I need to come out with this motor claim solution, if I need to bring it to life, I need to have my claims team, my motor claims team, because they have experience. I need to have the IT team because they need to obviously, give this technological solution. I need to have my partnerships and product team because they are the ones who are interacting, with the right, ecosystem, partners in the ecosystem, to make it come alive. I need to have my analytics team because they need to look at data. I obviously need to have my, brand and marketing team because you obviously need to highlight this. It's one thing to do it and it's another, to highlight it. Yeah. I need to have a customer experience team because they know what are the customer pain points, so everybody needs to come together. So Anand, I think the solution to what you are asking, if I look at it in one piece, I think today people need to focus on being orchestrators. How do they get, various, moving pieces together? Because you obviously can't know everything, right? You need to, get all these elements going. And that's where sometimes, the T model helps. When I say T, you need to have absolute expertise in one area, because obviously you can't not have expertise in any area. You're an expert in something, but you have your finger in the pie, in a few areas. When you put that together and you take, various people along, then you're bound to be successful.
Yeah, because that was exactly what I was going to ask you. Like, who orchestrates this? Finally, who's responsible? Let's say in Bajaj Allianz, who's then responsible for thinking of the next customer intervention?
You're looking at the person who has to do it.
Because so the onus falls on you. Okay.
Yeah, because that's what I need to do, right? I need to keep, redefining a customer experience, all the time, right? I mean, that's what we have to do. How do we stay ahead? So there's a lot which goes in, right? Research, orchestration, internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, figuring out, and you have to stay ahead of the game. And you also need to look at examples outside your industry, because customer facing assets are industry agnostic. The customer is not going to compare my mobile app, with other mobile apps in the insurance industry and say that, okay,
Right.
in my mind, if I rank this mobile app, you are here compared to this. If I look at e-commerce apps, this is the way it is. If I look at, ride sharing apps, this is the way it is. He's just going to say, this is the best app I have. So it's non-linear. So I need to compare my app with the best app that he has experienced, irrespective of the industry that, he
Perfect.
brings into the picture.
Perfect. I mean, in fact, my last follow-up to that was actually which are the brands that inspire you as a CX leader? Because obviously, like you rightly said, you're looking outside of insurance. So if you were to name a brand or two in India or across the world where you think they really define the benchmark, I'm sure that Bajaj Allianz wants to do that, and I'm sure they're close to it. But are there any brands that inspire you when it comes to their customer centricity and experience?
Honestly, and to be fair to, a lot of brands, difficult to pick one. Because honestly, if you see, there are a lot of brands, who are doing, terrific work, right? So the idea is not to look at, one brand in toto and then try to be a clone, but it is basically to study various brands within your industry and outside industry. We also respect our competitors, because we do not believe that, we are the only ones, with exclusive access to innovation, right? We respect our competitors, and if they do something well and good, right, why not, replicate that? At the same time, we cast our net wide and far and keep looking outside the industry. So there are far too many brands, in this, in the world who are doing good work, for me to single out and pick one. It really won't be fair to the others, if I do them out.
Fair. No, that's a fair point. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, so I'm going to continue since I had a question also.
Sure.
Insurance as a category has very low penetration in this country, right? We're a very, very underinsured nation. So while obviously technology helps you to retain your existing set of customers, etc., how are you all thinking about using technology? Because CX can also be used for acquisition. So where is CX helping, Bajaj Allianz open up the pie and get more people into insurance?
Again, a good question, Anand. And if you see, insurance is underpenetrated in India for multiple reasons. One is the fact that you need to have the right reach, the right product, and, awareness as well. I think the good thing today is, because of this awareness, everybody is working in tandem. The regulator, insurance companies, because, there are regulatory committees, there is a general insurance council, they're all working together, to look at various aspects of, the marketplace, right? And then try and see, how we can, redefine this, to ramp up this, insurance penetration. Now, coming to your point around how we can, leverage technology and, in customer experience, there are 2-3 ways of doing it, Anand. One is, of course, the classic way, which is, you say service to sales, right? You give good service and then you monetize, that, for upsell and cross sell, which is the classic way of doing it. So that's one. The other is, awareness. So, for example, during the pandemic, we launched, just to give an example, we launched pet insurance. Now, pet insurance is a new product and you expand the pie, right? Because you can take an insurance for your dog, right?
Pet, yeah.
Pet insurance, right? Now, during the pandemic, how do you launch it? Because you don't have, your standard launch where you go to a 5-star hotel, you call the press and do that. We launched it digitally. We launched it using, social media, and the product has done well. So that way we have launched, leverage technology to launch a product, and to scale it up through awareness, and, it picked up traction. So that way, technology can be used, to create awareness, to launch new products, and then, ensure that, eventually, you expand the pie.
Yeah, absolutely fair enough. Yeah. Guys, I know it's 2:20, it's about 8:26, but if there's any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. And any thoughts, any points of view, please feel free to ask Deepu. It's a great opportunity to get insight from him if you're in any function. Actually, you don't have to be in CX. I don't think we have anything currently, but for people who are looking to, I mean, I know you said this, like customers. I mean, everybody talks about customer centricity, right? I mean, if you read any blog, whether it's a marketing blog or a CX blog or a product management blog, I think all literature that you see out there talks about customer centricity. But the fact is that today's businesses, which are driven by driving bottom line, and the focus seems to be on ways to make that happen and not necessarily the customer, right? I mean, what do you think? What is your mantra at the end of the day? Because you've really built an organization where customer centricity is taken very seriously. So how have you brought, I mean, how has the Bajaj Allianz brought about a mental mindset and change? Because it has to permeate through the organization.
That's again a very good question, Anand, because we all have heard this cliche, right? That culture eats strategy for breakfast. So it's extremely important to ensure that it's built into the culture. So first was our logo. We rebranded our logo as Caringly Yours because we wanted to demonstrate that we're in the business of care. And then after that, once you do that, because changing marketing collateral, is the easiest part. But how do you ensure that people live, breathe, customer experience? So one is, we have developed this culture of taking customer feedback very seriously. So people know that if there is, something the customer has to say, we as a firm take it very seriously. Not only do we, resolve it on the spot to the extent possible, but we also, plow it back into the system to see, how can we make things structurally better, because every customer feedback, is learning for us. So that's one way of doing it. The other way, the other very important aspect of culture, Anand, is if you see most often we focus on penalties, right? If someone doesn't do a good job, then we kind of end up penalizing. We have consciously rewarded people, for demonstrating Caringly Yours, be it our customers, be it our employees or be it our partners, right? And I think, we have a care hero culture, so that has also obviously led to a huge upsurge because people realize that this behavior gets noticed. So it's both, the carrot and the stick, right? That's how, the culture gets, carried through. And the third is you're absolutely right that the tone at the top needs to find its echo at the bottom. So starting from the CEO to the management team, percolating all the way down, we have ensured that, it's customer first. It's customer first in our strategic planning. It's customer first, in the day we go about our work on a daily basis. And over a period of time, because we have built that, it has started yielding results, which only means that we need to continue to focus on this because culture is not a static aspect. You need to focus on it day in and day out. There are people joining the firm, so you need to keep doing that. It's a constant, continuous effort.
Oh, fantastic! I think that's a great way to end today's session. I think fantastic to have your clarity. I mean, I think what comes through very clearly is your clarity of thought, your clarity of focus, and I think that reflects in the kind of work Bajaj Allianz is doing. So it's been a really fantastic 1 hour learning seriously a lot of what is really possible if you put your mind very, very focused on customer centricity. The technology is available. I think the question is don't put technology first, put the customer first. You'll find a technology solution to eventually help that customer get what they want. And that's what will make them create value for the organization, right? Yeah. So thank you so much, Deepu. Fantastic session and really, really, really enjoyed having you here. Thank you for your time and all the effort you put into this session. And thank you everybody for attending it. I'm sure you guys had a wonderful experience listening to an expert talking about what it takes to build a world-class organization with customer focus and customer centricity. The recording of this will be available on Elleaves. So for those of you who joined late, you can always log in to elleaves.net and you can access the webinar there. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening and take care. Thank you so much, Deepu.
Yeah. Thank you, Anand, and thank you, audience.
Thank you so much.
It was, lovely, hearing all of you, and wish you all, a nice evening or whatever is left of it. Yeah. Thank you all. Bye.
Take care. Cheers. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.